Hello and welcome to Manor Lords. Yeah, this game is big, and if you're into medieval games or survival games or city builders, this one certainly has a lot for you, including RTS, real-time strategy combat. Hello again there, friends and fans. Raptor here, and welcome to our first video on Manor Lords in our tutorial series. Updated for the new early access release, just before its release, that is, to where a few things could change as you're watching this after its full release on April 26, 2024. Today's video will serve as the beginning of a series of guides to focus on all things Manor Lords, including how to get started and survive your first year, advanced tips in the game for kind of the mid-game section and building a more advanced village, as well as military tips, farming, and much more. So, if you're a big fan of these types of games, and you really want to know a lot more, or if you're new for the first time and getting started for your very first city builder, well, go ahead and subscribe. We'd love to have you here, and thank you very much for hitting that like button too, so more people can find out about Manor Lords. But more importantly, this should serve as a wonderful little stepping stone for everyone to get into these survival city builder games, which could be a little tough, and then eventually, well, go down the rabbit hole of all sorts of games like Frostpunk and maybe even Farthest Frontier and many more. Well, anyway, let's go ahead and get started with our first little section here of Manor Lords. We're going to talk a little bit more about this game specifically and some of the things that you have to do. So, essentially the story is that we are a lord that's being sent to the north to try to reclaim or settle some lands for our king, and in order to do that we can of course create our lord, and so we can choose any of these people here, the currently available portraits, that we could also name ourselves too, as well as creating a coat of arms. Now there's a lot of cool stuff to goof with here in order to make like different types of patterns and textures and things for your different coats of arms that will display on the troops, and it's pretty cool. Like, they'll actually wave your banner around when you're in battle. So this will be on display in the upper right corner as you play, as well as your character portrait, and then of course you can also see that on the banners like I mentioned. So lots of cool options here. Make sure you take some time to goof around with it. There's also a way to load a custom texture too, so if you're trying to load something from maybe, I don't know, a movie or another game, you could totally do that. So definitely take some time to goof around here, and make sure you save your coat of arms when you're ready to get started. Meet Sir Tutorial. Yeah, anytime that you see this little coat of arms in the middle with the white background and the green banner, then you'll know that you're watching our tutorial series. So if you check the playlist too, you'll find many other videos being added over time, and anytime you see this guy and the coat of arms in the upper right corner, you'll know you're watching the right one. Let's go ahead and continue then, as we now get started explaining a few things about the game in a whole. So we have three game modes, one essentially which is kind of a fun little sandbox mode with essentially just you versus the elements, like surviving against the cold and starvation, hypothermia as I'd mentioned, and also perhaps fires, some other things to worry about there. But there's also another game mode which seems to be the main game mode of the game, Restoring the Peace, which essentially is you in the same scenario, but also against a rival lord who is trying to illegitimately claim lands above you or to your left or right, wherever they happen to spawn. They'll be trying to take territories and challenge you at the same time. So think of it almost like a version of chess, but in a city builder. Although it, of course, doesn't take place in turns, it's more just like trying to outwit your opponent by taking strategic zones that we'll cover in just a little bit. And one of the hardest modes in the game, On the Edge. Essentially everything that I just mentioned, but even more difficult, more harsh environments, more difficult enemies, and more relentless and ruthless, giving you no real time for, well, a relaxing experience. But we're all about the relaxing here today, and despite that, we're still going to go with the Restoring the Peace scenario, so that way I can also show off some military aspects to the game for those of you trying to get into that. Now keep in mind there's also three difficulty templates, one that's relaxing, default, and challenging. For today's purposes, we'll also start on default, but for you, it might actually be a little bit easier to go on relaxing if you'd like to, or check these little conditions here on the left side and hover over each of these. It'll tell you exactly what everything will do. And keep in mind some of these are still work in progress, so there'll be something that will be updated either after release or in future updates down the line. So each one of these can make your experience either easier or more challenging, or tailor it to however you'd like to, as that is of course your right as Lord. We're going to go ahead and also play on the early access map, which is the only one available for now, but eventually the developer will be adding many more. So this map should be the same, but when we hit begin, we will spawn randomly into a randomly chosen location, and every time that you reload and do this, you'll be spawned into a random place in the same map. Okay, let's go ahead and get started. Welcome to Manor Lords. So, this is the, well, the main view of the game where we'll be playing from the top-down perspective, and this is our little starting camp, which will go ahead and eventually turn into a thriving city. We have a new message from the Lord, who has, or the King, who is giving us, the Lord, this quest of basically preparing for battle and taking over these lands and uniting them under our rule. And of course, the King is the one who essentially rules over us, our boss. There'll be a lot of pop-up tutorials here helping us out with different things. Certainly keep that on while you play too, but for these purposes, I'll skip these for now, and those, I believe, can be turned back on in the options menu. Right, zoom out and take a beautiful look at this map. That is crazy cool looking, and you can actually kind of tip down if you zoom in a little bit and see how, yeah, rolling and sprawling it is, with beautiful roads, streams, rolling hills, cliffs. Beautiful landscape, absolutely beautiful. Now, if we zoom out even further, we could take a look a little bit at the map, and you can see the territory in yellow where our rival lord has spawned, this guy here, Hildebolt. Now, if you're playing in peaceful, you won't have to worry about any of this, including outlaws, but we'll get to that when the time comes. Right now, we're spawning over here on the left side in an area which I think might change every time, or perhaps it's the same, I'm not sure, but Immenruth. These names may actually kind of stay the same, but you can also rename them too as you capture each of these territories. They actually kind of look all the same to me from the many times I've played, so perhaps it does stay the same. So if we press T on our keyboard, we go right back to our camp. At any time we get lost, if you press T, it'll jump you right back to essentially the middle of your camp, to where we can see we have a few people. 5 if you look in the upper left corner, and also an oxen who will be walking around a little bit and helping us out with hauling logs. But we'll get to that in just a moment. Very importantly, we must take a look at our supplies where we have those said logs, a little hitching post for our our friend to be tied up at, and also the homeless people's tents, which eventually will have homes, and that'll make them a little happier. If we zoom out, we can look around us and see a beautiful forest. We also have some little markers on the map that if we hover over, we can see these are actually wild animals. Perfect, a food source for us. Very good. 19 out of 20. And luckily they'll replenish over time, as of course they're animals and they'll breed, but we certainly don't want to hunt them to extinction. If we look up here to the left, we see an iron deposit, which is perfect for making weapons and tools, and something we'll do a little bit later. And also we have ourselves a berry deposit. Yeah, some bushes, and if we zoom in, we can actually see them here. Same with the deer. And our people will be able to go forage from these berry bushes right there, and they'll be able to collect them and store them for the winter. Now, the good thing is that because it is spring, and we can tell that with the lower right corner, if we hover over that, it'll tell us all the information about which seasons do what and what months qualify into those seasons. Right now in the spring, it is frequently raining, but seasonal deposits, such as these berries, are actually regrowing. So they might only be at 8 out of 64 now, but eventually it'll deposit up to 64. And there are ways to increase that in the future, but we'll go over that later. Additionally, we have a very rich deposit of clay, and that shows a little crown above it that lets us know that it's a rich deposit that has much more than usual. So a very big bonus for us. Lastly, we have ourselves a stone deposit down here. Good. Great for building churches, great for upgrading buildings, and very nice to be able to mine it down here in the corner where it's kind of out of the way, so we don't have to build our city on top of it. Otherwise, it's likely that we would move that resource out of the way. If we take a look at the area around us, we've noticed that it's a pretty beautiful landscape, always beautiful, but very good for us because we have some rolling hills that might be easily defendable. Now we actually have a big hill up here, and if we look around the map, there's also some cliff sides that we could build on too, which is really cool. If you look around, you'll find eventually like a big oak cliff, and you'll find like rivers, and what's known as the King's Road too, which is a highway that interconnects all of these regions already, so it's not like it's completely unexplored, but it is certainly something we could build off of. Think of it like the highway in City Skylines, where you connect to that and you've connected to the world. Speaking of connecting to the world, there's trade points here at the edge of the map too, so we can actually see that there's 2 points for us to trade, both in the, we'll call this south, and in the west. And so if we look at where our camp is right here, we're pretty much smack dab in the middle of those, so it doesn't really matter where we build. We're in a really good spot. Now, we could also build over here too, where there's already open area, but we would have to have our people walk a little bit, and the highway is somewhat a little further away. We'd have to kind of build from up here, but I'm all about doing things like that uniquely, so I think we're going to move a little bit. Now, I'm going to show you this just so you can learn how to do it. I also am picturing the village being up here because with these hills down here, this might be perfect land for crops. If we click on the construction button at the bottom or hit C, you can see that we have a overlay that is hidden for the time being, but we can see where underground water is. a perfect place to build wells, and emmer fertility, which is an old word for wheat, essentially. And this will be perfect for making bread. Now, unfortunately for us, it's not as fertile as we were hoping, and it looks like the other areas are a little more fertile, but we got lucky down here. Yeah, right next to where we want to build our village, there seems to be a beautiful little valley with perfect fertility for emmer. Now, there's also flax, which is used to make linen, and it doesn't look so good there. But remember, fertility is randomized, so if you're not feeling the map already, you can go ahead and hit escape, go to exit, and then just go through the whole process again of reloading, and you'll get the same map, but with different parameters. Also looking at barley, which is made for making, or used for making beer. It's the main ingredient for that. Yeah, looks like we don't really have much fertility for that either. But we do have for rye over here on the left. So we can make rye bread, we can make wheat bread, and we can also make maybe a little bit of barley. It's not great soil for it, but there's a possibility of at least utilizing it some. But that's okay. No problem. Now, some of these other things that are work in progress, you don't have to worry about too much, so go ahead and ignore those. And underground water is probably also not so important, as your city will eventually get so big that you'll be able to pretty much build on these underground rivers wherever. It's not too big of a deal, so don't worry about building over any of those underground water sources. But fertility is okay to build over so long as you have an alternative source. In fact, we have more up here too, so that's good for us. Okay, let's go ahead and lay out our city. Now, the first thing that I like to do is to try to find a place to build that's nice and flat and open, and conveniently this one's almost pointing an arrow like, hey, right here, with the little road that's coming off this way. And if you're trying to be organic, what I like to do is try to make things in the shape of an eye or a football or flat tires, and try to basically make a gridiron that's not so obvious. Certainly it's a lot more efficient in this game because all the buildings, for example, like the forester's hut, all use squares and rectangles for their footprint. So even though this game is very open and generous with the amount of roads that you can build and how you build them, the buildings are still on a square plot, and so it's kind of easy to build around them and make a square. Now, we need to clear this area, and this first building here is known as the logging camps, and so we're going to put that down, and that will allow us to start logging timber, and that will allow us to clear this area out to build our city. So we're going to go ahead and build it over here in the corner, and get to work, lads, indeed. Now, right now we're paused, and right now you can see that there's really nothing here. The oxen that we have will eventually have to bring over logs in order to build this structure, and then if we click on it, we see at the bottom it'll have to bring 2. Well, that means he's going to have to take 2 trips, right? Well, not necessarily. We could actually get ourselves another oxen right at the start of the game, which is probably the greatest beginner and pro tip I could ever recommend. 1 oxen in this game is great, but 2 is even better. If you have a team of oxen, that is, because then when you're starting to cut down trees, the ox who is pulling trees out from the woods and the ox that is picking them up from the logging camp and bringing them to the construction site will kind of work in tandem. It'll be part of a chain, for example, and that's really good. Now, the hitching post here, to where we can have 1 animal tied up at a time, is a perfect spot to order another ox, and we could do that every 30 days. So don't worry, you just spent a little bit of money, but it is a very sound investment, believe you me. Now we're going to also build a hitching post under the boxes here under logistics, where the first one was found under gathering, basically the first building under gathering, first category, first building. We're going to jump over to the logistics, and we're going to go to the last category, which is the hitching post. We're going to build that somewhere near the logging camp. So we're going to go ahead and maybe put it to, I don't know, like maybe right out front, essentially like this, and boom. Now, these eventually can be upgraded. If you click on this, you won't see anything at the moment while it's being built, but once a structure is built, you'll see upgrades that are available here under its little menu with the picture in the background. And yeah, you can see we can upgrade that to a small stable where we can have 2 animals here. Don't buy horses yet. Horses will be used for merchants, but we'll get to that another time. So let's go ahead and also use this button here, the relocate button. Now, this is important because this will basically tell our workers to pick up certain structures, not all of them, and move them for free. So I believe the hitching post, the hunter's camp, and also what we just built, the logging camp, can all be moved for free, so that way you can get them out of the way once you're done using them, and you don't have to pay any sort of material cost for that. So we're going to put both the hitching posts over here because they're going to be working together, and the resources here are going to have to stay here until they're moved into storage. So our people have started with some things that they really need: a couple of baskets of bread, some firewood, and some stones for building additional structures, not to mention some logs, which this is of course from the hitching post that's being moved, but the initial storage of it the logs are over here. So we start with a few to be able to build some things. Be careful. Building too much too early will kind of lock you out in the game, and they'll give you kind of a red alert that says, hey, if you haven't built the logging camp yet, you're about to lock yourself out. So don't worry about all this. This will all get moved in just a moment as we now move down here to the midsection of our territory, right about here, if you see it. And there's our road off to the right side. We have our little village that we're building. And over off to the left, we have another opening too, so we could expand it over there. But we can tell where our village is based on the mud and whatnot here. So if we hit R, we can go into the road building tool, and this is a phenomenal tool. Look at every time that you click, it kind of creates a bend, and you can really make some amazing roadways here. A very good tool, or then you can cross roadways together. You can kind of make a giant roundabout if you want to, and then you click that hammer and it will build. But if you're not happy with that, you go right back to that tool, you hit Alt and left click, and then you can remove that too. No cost to build roads, and they're insta-build, so kind of a carefree really advantage in the game. We're going to go ahead and start by building a few roads off of the initial road here, where we can see it coming in from the bottom, and we're going to just try to make a kind of a pattern, some sort of a free pattern that's curvy and tries to take up most of the space without doing too close to a 90-degree angle, although sometimes it's unavoidable. Sometimes you just kind of run out of room and have to make a quick turn. So I'm going to go ahead and try to build this over to the logging camp, but not connect to it. I'm going to then circle past it and try to build a full ring here. And again, we'll be cutting down trees in this area, so don't you worry. We'll be clearing a lot of this out, and it'll look real nice. And we're going to go ahead and try to loop it all the way back to the initial starting area. Very nice. Boom. And then that road that kind of cuts into the middle, I'm going to go ahead and make that kind of a curvy road too. And we'll connect that to the back. Now that orange glow there is letting us know, hey, there's iron ore here, or possibly clay if we get close to that. So certainly make sure you don't accidentally build over that. And keep in mind that when you're building roads, I do believe you can keep some of these tools up. Oh, no, you can't. So you kind of have to memorize. Like if you're trying not to build over a flax field, you'll have to kind of memorize it as you build. So you'll have to eye it up a little bit. All right, let's on pause. And while our workers are getting ready to bring materials over here to build these structures, we'll go ahead and connect the rest of these to the road. Of course, the hitching post will need to be connected to the road, and so does our logging camp, because they'll be using that to bring logs around. Now, once the logging camp is done, we'll be able to tell these workers where exactly they can cut. Of course, we can leave it unlimited, and they'll cut wherever they want to, and so they'll just start cutting in a radius pretty much around the logging camp. That'll eventually take longer and longer, but we're going to tell them exactly where to cut at the start so they can clear out some areas for us. And then we can start building some homes. Now, homes are very important, but I'd say they're the least important thing compared to making sure you get all of your bread and other things stored right away. So if we go back to that construction menu and back to the storage menu, I think we want to build a granary first, which will store that bread. Now, it is random whether or not it's going to rain within the first few days in Manor Lords when you play, so I would just say get that granary up right away and don't delay, because that thing will make you pay. If you don't start storing that bread, it's going to be a bad time, and you may as well be better off dead. Okay, well, wow, that was a good rhyme. Let's go ahead and place this down wherever. I think, actually, remember how I mentioned we would be putting our farms down here? Let's go ahead and put it somewhere close to where we might be doing some farming, and we'll get started by plopping it down. Actually, maybe we could put it on this road here. Kind of a main road structure. And interestingly enough, we'll build our city around the King's Road. This again is like a highway that passes right through. So we'll have like the eastern city and the western, the eastern city here and the western city there on this left side. Although it is opposite because we were looking at it from the bottom before. Doesn't matter. Look, the side with the iron is where we're going to be building primarily, and then the side with the clay will be secondary. So all good for us. Now we can also speed up time times 4 and times 12. We'll do that for today's purposes, and we'll watch all the people getting to work right away. Oh yeah, look at them hard at work there. Now they got to wait for the ox to bring around some materials, so they'll get to work right away. And yeah, we'll get to hunting here in just a little bit too. In fact, while we're waiting, we'll go ahead and do that as well. Now's a good time to do that, as we see the ox starting to carry around all the logs. Don't worry, he'll take a shortcut and take the shortest route possible. The people will mostly stick to the pathways, but this is mostly guidance for the homes and other things that we'll build, and people are pretty much free to walk wherever they want, so they'll get to work on building all that stuff for us, and we'll kind of keep an eye on that. Now, back to what I had mentioned before, we're going to start building, actually, let me take a quick little review here. Under gathering, we have a forger's hut too, which I mentioned will be important, and the oh, we have a new message. But yes, the gatherer's hut will be important, and that'll be where we gather berries. A new message. Ah, our enemy's writing us, basically saying, hey man, don't spread any rumors about me. People are talking smack. Doesn't matter. We're on a mission from the king, and this message doesn't really sway us anyway. We're here to do our duty. We can write back, of course, and we can start doing things through rhetoric, negotiation, and declaration. But this isn't really finished at the moment and is a little more advanced with influence and some things that we'll encounter later. So we'll cover that in another video, in our advanced tips video. Now, once everybody's arrived, they're going to start waiting to put everything into position. And while they're here, they're also going to be clearing the land of rocks and brush and grass, and they're going to be making it nice for all of the materials to be delivered. And then they're going to start swinging at all the materials that have been delivered to make something out of it. They're going to build, and that's going to be a good thing for us. Now, back to what I mentioned with the hunting camp. There's no cost to build this, so essentially the workers will come over and build that right away. And the hunting area is right up there. So I think what we'll do is we'll build the hunting post right next to the granary because, well, no better place to, be than next to where the food will be stored. So they can place it in there right away with no delay. So it'll be fresh meat ready to go. Nothing like fresh meat. Now, we've also got the forger that we can build too. And, yeah, we're starting to build a lot of stuff quickly, aren't we? Now, remember, the forger needs to go where the purple little basket is, so we'll build that somewhere near the actually we'll build that near the source. We'll mix it up a little bit so the forger doesn't have to walk so far. But keep in mind that the granary worker will come over to pick up the sources from the job site, not the other way around. The hunter won't walk to the granary to store things. It is the job of the person working at the granary to do this, so they'll be on their way as quickly as possible to get the job done. Now I think what we'll do here is we'll build like a little dead-end road for our forger, and we'll kind of build it like this that goes back into the city rather than on the main highway. There we go. And we'll plop that down right up here. Now at this point we're starting to build a little bit too many buildings, honestly. And we can build back into the woods and it'll automatically delete those trees, but we want to make sure we conserve every tree that we can. So we're going to start ordering things. If we click on, and by that I mean adding them to a queue. If we click on a building here, we can see construction priority, which goes from lowest to very low, low, medium, high, very high, and highest. For the logging camp, we want that to be the highest priority, followed very closely at high by the, actually very high, by the hitching post. So we're going to add both of those to very high. And then we're going to, once those are done, immediately start to try to build that granary. And that's going to be a thing that takes a little bit of time. So we're going to leave that at high, then we're going to leave the hunting post at medium, and then finally we're going to leave the forger hut at low. And then we'll continue to build some other things. So while we wait for them, they're probably going to get some more logs, I think, up the road. And then, yeah, they have to go through the woods to get it. Oh, and there's another log, look at that. It's probably, oh, we have Lawrence, one of our oxen. And we should have another one around here somewhere. But anyway, it's good. They're taking turns hauling it to the road and back again. So you can kind of see the loop that we built. It is hard to see, but if we zoom out on the world map, you can actually see the roads that we built and the King's Road too. It's a little more bold than our roads, but you can kind of see what we got going on, kind of building like a pretzel or like an onion or something like that. A little weird looking, but it'll do. Now we'll be clearing out more of this land, and something else that's going to be important after we built all the food-producing buildings will be making firewood. Our buildings always require firewood, and that will be under the first tab under Woodcutter's Lodge, and that will be needed to heat the homes and also cook food, and the need for firewood will double in the winter because it gets colder, so just keep in mind that you'll need to have that up pretty much before the end of the first winter. Now, or beginning of the first winter. If we exit the build mode here, we have a lot of things at the top of the screen, and we're going to build that cutter camp in just a moment, but there's a lot of important things that you should, if you're going into the game, hover over, and they explain a lot of things for you, and we'll go over these in just a little bit once they're relevant. But the most relevant thing right now is if we check to make sure we've got enough timber to build this next building, and indeed we do. With 2 timber remaining, this is showing surplus. You can click this little button on the left to see totals. Right now we have 9 in total, but with all the buildings that we built, those get reserved for them. And now we've got 2 timber remaining for what we want to do next. You can also see planks, stone, tools, wooden parts, roof tiles, and blocks there. And then we also have ourselves food and a very important thing, firewood. Yeah, 20 of that remaining, which is going to go in a storehouse, which another thing we're going to build. Essentially, the granary is for storage of food, and the storehouse is for the storage of fuel and other commodities. We can also see what those are by looking at crops. Those can be stored in there, and we can also look at crafting materials, things like malt or leather or hides that eventually can be turned into something else. Commodities will sell for big money on the market, like a big dollar. That's what we want to sell it for, big money. And so that's cloaks and clothes and salt and whatnot. And the last thing is military items. We have things like sidearms and war bows, spears, shields, and other things like that. It's going to be a little bit later until we do that, but those are things that sell for a lot of money and also buy. You can buy those for a lot of money. So you need to make sure you got a strong economy going before anything goes wrong down that little avenue. Wait up on that one. All right, let's go ahead and build ourselves a woodcutter's lodge. We'll try to build that somewhere near the the logging camp. And also, I believe this building can be moved for free, too. So the arrow indicates which way it'll be pointing. And we can hold left-click to rotate buildings, by the way. We can also left-click one more time to be able to build it. And we can build a narrow road right between, if we can squeeze one in, right there. We'll be able to do that. Should connect to it very nicely here whenever it's built. And this one will also put it the lowest priority. Now, it's already March in the game. There are other game modes that will put you closer to winter, but March is a really good time to start because we've got a little bit more of spring to go, but we've got the entire summer and autumn to get through before it really starts getting cold and before we need to have shelters for everybody. So let's go ahead and speed things up again to tier 4, or speed 4. And we'll kind of just monitor everything that happens. So again, once the granary is built, we can tell people to come over here and start grabbing that bread. And once the logging camp is built, the oxen will come over and grab these supplies here and start storing them there. Yeah, kind of cool how they come and pick those up. The oxen are the only way to build things in this game. Anytime a timber is needed, they're the ones who drag the big old construction material over. But humans will carry all the other materials like stone and maybe even planks, that kind of thing. Alright, they should be on the way, and we can see our 2 oxen listed there as well, so we know we've got 2 working for us, and then we've got 5 families working for us too. This game kind of works on a whole thing of not necessarily being individuals, but like whole functioning families that can go in burgage plots that will then work on farming or chicken coops or goat pens or whatnot to produce related materials. Wow, look at this, building's almost done. Now, a really cool thing about this game is there's a visit mode, a little eyeball right up here next to your character's portrait and next to your coat of arms. If you click on that, you can actually walk around and, kind of say hi to people in your mind and see things delivered too. So, yeah, an oxen will be coming down this road very soon. You can see him there, probably dragging a log, and once that gets here, then the people will finish up building the rest of this building. You can do this for everything. You can see all the buildings being built in third person. You can see battles in third person. You can watch a church be built, or just stroll through the market, or watch a busy traffic area, have a bunch of horses coming back and forth from your merchants. So really cool to be able to take a break every once in a while from all the clicking and just kind of see things from a person perspective. Amazing. This game also has a day-night cycle, so if you go into the options and hit pause, you can actually turn on a cosmetic day-night cycle. People won't sleep in this game. They'll just keep on working, as this game pretty quickly takes place over the course of an entire year, with months lasting a matter of minutes, really. And so you got to be quick to do things. And also there's rain that will affect things too. Like I mentioned, the food getting and going bad if it happens to get wet. So you'll need to worry about that. As well as archers in combat. They'll have a little bit lesser accuracy, a little more trouble shooting in the rain because of, the rain. Alright, looks like everything but the people have been delivered. So they'll be back over here in just a moment to build that thing. Let's go ahead and finally speed it up. This is a very slow game, a game of a lot of time. And so if you're looking for something along the lines of Age of Empires, where it's going to be a quick game, or you're thinking about maybe Rise of Nations, where maybe it takes a little longer, or hell, even Civ. Now this could be around Civ time or even longer, depending on how much time you want to put into building your towns. The people just came out of the wood here and finished up the logging camp, so that's all done. They're now moving on to finishing up the hitching post there, and that should be done in just a moment too. Alright, and then they're going to go on to the next one too. Now at the beginning of this game, you can definitely speed up time. I prefer to always play slow, just in case there's an emergency or I miss something, and it helps me to make a lot better cities because I'm not rushing. I'm kind of just building things based on, if they look beautiful, and I don't know, they somehow just seem to work. Exposed stocks getting soaked. Oh no, our supplies. Yeah, just like I mentioned at the very beginning, our supplies are getting absolutely soaked. And the most important thing here is bread. We can totally get more firewood very easily by just cutting down trees. And the stones, of course, they don't go bad. They're millions of years old, so that's why we're going to try to build the granary first. So people should be coming over to clear that area. And we want that bread, so very important to make sure the oxen delivers the log very quickly. And it looks like 2 logs have now been delivered, and our people now need to carry 10 stones. So each person needs to take 2 trips from that supply pile and drop that off for the granary so it could be built above the ground. We don't want that sitting on the ground at all. Now let's go ahead and reassess. Now that we've built a few buildings, we have ourselves a high priority building. We'll go ahead and move that up to the highest priority. Then we'll do the hunting camp, probably at a very high priority. And then we'll get the forager camp done at kind of a maybe medium or whatnot. It's all good. Now the oxen, no matter what the priority, and I think even if we pause a building, the ox teams will deliver logs and or other materials that need to be delivered too. I'm not sure if there's a way to prevent them from doing that. Some of you like to do a blueprint mode where basically you pause, try to build a bunch of stuff, and then see it built, and it's an easier thing to lay out that way. And this might be kind of a hindrance to that, because you also need to have the materials in your coffers or your storage to be able to do that. All right. There they go. Everybody grabbing some stones, getting ready to build that granary. Luckily, not too much rain. And that supply pile is now gone. Our good friend Lawrence has cleared that out for us. Very nice. All right. So that remaining log is probably going to come over here to the forager. Yeah, we can... Oh, no. Actually, that might go over to the old logging camp then. And that'll be plopped into storage for a little while we work on some other stuff. The hunting camp is built for free. The granary, though, requires 10 stone. And I thought we saw a bunch of people walking down the road. Where are those people? There they are. So, yeah, they're all going to have to take multiple trips and deliver all of those stones. While we wait for all those people to finish their deliveries, we can go ahead and start cutting areas into smaller sections. And we're going to start by building some homes. While they're working on that, we're going to go ahead and build some houses for the future. But we might not be able to based on the fact that we don't have logs. So I'll just kind of show you what that looks like in order to build. Let's go ahead and slow down time. This is a good example. Now, we won't be able to build these homes yet because we lack the materials. But I'm just going to show you exactly how it is to lay these out. Now, we're basically building what is known as what they call down here the Burgage Plot Level 1. And this is essentially a home that could have a garden or a working space behind it where the people who live here, the serfs or whatever you'd like to call them, they also have to work that in addition to their main job. So if somebody is working as a logger, when they come home, the family might also have a garden. The mom and the children may help to take care of that, plant the crops and keep them healthy and whatnot. And the family can work together to harvest that at the end of the year to share with neighbors. So everybody works together to provide those things. In fact, the things that you can grow in your town alone include vegetables. Then, of course, you can also have chicken coops, so eggs. And then also you can get hides from goats, which eventually can be upgraded to produce meat as well. But those are pretty important things, honestly. And the most important thing is a vegetable garden right at the start. So when you build your first home, I would certainly suggest building one home and make it a big O one, or maybe 2. And one thing we can do here, which is really neat, is when we click again, and of course the arrow here is where the houses will be built, you can see this huge bulge where the lovely plot can be put, and then also this little area, there's like a kind of a shed with a hammer in it. That's where the workshops could be put, or a farm. And then here we have our regular houses, and then also there could be, this house could be upgradable to have an additional house onto it. So this each hold one family, so 1, 2, 3, but actually 4 when we upgrade it, as well as some plots here too, which is really nice. Now, if we want to add more or less homes, we could hit this minus button to basically make it like one giant house for 2 families to live in, or we can try to increase it to 2 or 3 or however many it'll let us do. So sometimes you're trying to cram as many people into a spot as possible, and then other times you're trying to do what I mentioned with the carrots and I don't know, celery and more than likely cabbage and beets and whatnot. No potatoes, though. That did not exist at this time, or at least it did exist, but we didn't know of it. Same with tomatoes and quite a few other things, actually. So that's why, for the most part, you'll find only wheat, flax, barley, rye, and then dung and fertilizer, which I think can be used a little bit later. I haven't yet gotten around to that. There is a whole fertilizer tab that we'll get to at another time. But when our city gets big enough and when we complete enough goals, we will then start unlocking. Hold on, let's watch this get built because that's really cool for the granary. If we click on our city's name up at the top, you can, before you click, see that it's a settlers camp, and you can see what it takes to upgrade the camp. So they want us to build 5 level 1 burgage plots. So that's going to be our goal, is to house all the people who have settled here. And if we click on that, we can see the development tab where we can then spend points. Now we have to again hit that goal of 5 homes, but if you hover over each and every one of these things, you can actually see how effective they'll be in the game, or what they do precisely. So you can see the name of our town, that it's a settlers camp. We don't even have houses, and then eventually what we can do in order to well, how to spend these points and what they will do for us. So we can do trapping at the hunter in order to give a passive meat income. We can also have beekeeping, so we can make honey, and also wax for making candles, which is good for productivity. We can also basically do commerce and a few other things. Now at the very top, this is essentially for farming. Over to the right, it's like commerce and trading. At the bottom, it's for blacksmithing and forging. And then on the left side, it's for foraging and maybe some light hunting and some other things like that, making candles. So that'll be good. We can spend those points a little bit later. But right now, let's go ahead and finish this house. Really looking nice, honestly. No, it's not a house. It's a granary. It's a house for food. I saw that roof and I was like, we're building a home. Well, kind of. Yeah, the granary is going to be really nice, and we're just waiting on a few more materials to get delivered from people, and everyone else is kind of planing the wood, and, well, they're acting busy, but they really can't do anything until those remaining materials arrive, wherever they may be. Workers should be returning with those. There they are. These two, I think. Possibly. And I think that whole rock pile is not yet depleted. Okay. Now, we're also going to build something in order to store those materials. But first, I need to get somebody on logging. So we're going to now start getting some materials for additional building. And right now, you can see we have 1 log left, so we better start getting some more. We're going to assign a family by either hitting E on the keyboard, Echo, or Quebec in order to go back one. So Echo or Quebec. And we're going to hit the plus sign, hire somebody, and then under the advanced tab, we're going to click on this little hand that says limit work area. And this is huge. This is kind of like a big pro tip too, in addition to the hitching post one. If you click on this unlimited work area, you can actually get a little like wheel or a circle to where you can start cutting down trees. Now, if you hold control, you can make that bigger, and you can make it absolutely gargantuan. Or you can make it very, very small if you just want to cut down a few trees in your village. So what we're going to do here is we're going to try to cut down this area where we want to build our village, and we'll have them start cutting down there. Now, once they're done cutting this down, we'll kind of get a pop-up up here that essentially will say, like, oh, work area depleted or whatever, and then we can reorganize it and maybe cut down the iron deposit. Now, I don't know if it affects the animals or whatnot to cut down their habitat, and same with the foraging for berries, but I never cut down the trees around the wild animals or the berry deposits. 1, because I think it would look kind of bad, and 2, I kind of feel like it might somehow hurt them. But yeah. Oh, look at all the little deer. That's a food source right there. Your hunters amongst some of the best. They'll be able to kill all those animals and also get hides, which will then eventually help you with making clothing in the future. Maybe just some regular fabric that people can make into clothing on their own. I think our lady friend here might be bringing the remaining materials. No, she's unassigned and constructing. We're waiting for somebody to bring over some stone. There we go. Thomas bringing it up with the... it's always Thomas. Always somebody named Thomas picking up the slack. But we got ourselves Thomas here transporting 1 more rock. Each of these people, again, 1 rock per person. So if you're going to do a job where it's going to take quite a bit of stone, might take a while. I'm still surprised people don't bring over a cart. I thought people like that would, you know, once you build a certain building like the storehouse, it does come with a cart. So pretty impressive. 9 out of 10. We're going to build ourselves the storehouse, as I just mentioned, and we're probably going to put that over by the, maybe the camp over here. Oh, we can't. We need 1 more log. But we're going to find a place to put it. Even though we can't build it at the moment, we could still be useful with it. So maybe we'll build it, I don't know. Maybe we'll build it near the road here. Now we'll do a trade post up here. We'll build this kind of over by this area. Then we'll make this our utility area. Now, another thing that was popular in medieval ages, or really in general in European town layouts is that you would always have a church. And typically the church would, as best they could, try to put it in the middle of the town. But more importantly, it would always be up on a hill. So we're going to try to find the most elevated position and try to put that up somewhere high. And it could be right over here, actually. And neat thing is if we put it here, and if we build the 2 sections of the city that I mentioned, we can go ahead and put it right in the middle. And also, we can put a marketplace near there because, of course, well, people are going to be going around the church a lot to socialize and to pray. And, well, it's going to be right in the middle of town, too. So it's a perfect spot for us to be able to basically take advantage of people going between or on the King's Road and put those marketplaces. Very convenient for everybody. All right, it is raining again, and finally the granary is complete, so I'm going to put everybody on work to the granary. No one else is going to be assigned to anything else except for that logger, because as you just saw, that pop-up, we're running out of food, and that's very bad. We now have 2 bread because most of it got soggy and destroyed by the rain. We went from 19 to 2, so it's looking real bad for us. We might not actually be able to survive. Maybe. We'll see. Well, unfortunate about the food, because that can always give you an extra food bonus. The game will determine happiness based on how many different things you provide to each person. So right now we're going to scale back then and do 1 person working at the granary, and we're going to start hunting then right away. So we're going to do what we did before, and actually we don't have to do this. The hunter will prioritize going to the nearest location to hunt, which is here. And so we can go ahead and just leave that alone, and they'll automatically bring a deer back and then start drying the carcass here at the hunting camp and then put it into storage. Actually, no. The person working at the granary will come grab that and put that on a cart and bring it in there. But, yeah, pretty good. So far, so good. Let's take a look at timber. We actually have 2 now, so we'll need to keep gathering more of that. Let's get another person working at that logging camp to assist. And let's also try to build a storehouse now that we've got 2 and try to store any future goods. We can get that done. Check it off the list. I know, we've done so much so far, right? Now, again, if you need to replay any of this, make sure you pause and go back and take notes or whatnot. And this is supposed to be a very basic entry-level video for anybody who may have not played this before, or a pro who wants to maybe add some feedback or, you know, some additional tips. So definitely, if you found anything out during the tutorial videos, just dump off any knowledge you may have. There's a lot of things that I'm not going to cover in the video because I simply don't know they exist yet, or perhaps there's a few things that I just run out of time to cover, or we'll cover in our advanced video. Regardless, whatever the tip is, make sure you share it down below. It's okay. Any sort of complexity will help everyone out. And we want to make sure everybody's having a good time in Manor Lords. That's my evil plan for this video series and this game, is to hope everybody, you know, really enjoys it, and enjoys it on Game Pass or Steam or GOG, and eventually it will be coming, according to the developer in a tweet they sent me, will be coming to consoles. And no word on multiplayer yet, other than, maybe. But, of course, we got a long road to go until we get out of early access into a more complete game. So if you're watching this video in the future, if it's maybe 2025, and you're like, wait a minute, all this has changed. None of these things are here anymore. Yeah, I'm sure. We'll make some more videos in the future. I'm sure some things are going to change around, so no worries there. We'll definitely take advantage of that. Now, one thing we want to do, too, is we want to keep 1 person on assigned, because this person can be our construction worker and also be the ox driver, right? They can guide the ox around with timber and either take it from the logging site into storage or to a construction site. So having 1 person on assigned most of the time is a good idea. Sometimes you'll maybe bring it down to 0 to get a special project done or something, but in most cases, you do want that to read at least 1. And you can see here we've got people, yeah, kind of helping out because they're not busy doing other things, which is totally fine. So now we got some logs here at the logging camp, and another log here. Our people will get things to where they need to go. Very trusting in the AI. The AI is quite good, actually. And they've delivered the 2 logs there for the storehouse. Great. So we're going to start cutting down trees, I think, pretty much in this area here. And maybe make like a big old rectangle. Then we're going to cut down the trees here and make a nice little area to do farming on this slope and see if we can make it look nice. Now again, fertility, there's not much we can do to change that, so yeah, keep that in mind. Oh boy, a family is hungry. Are we out of bread already? Oh no. Okay, so even though we did as best we could, I did a little yapping, but still, I think a newer player would still take that amount of time in order to try to find things. The bread just went bad, and we started with 19. We were maybe able to store 2, and then it immediately got eaten by everyone, so that's fair. We're going to try to build the forager hut then next as a high priority and try to get some berries too. And so we're going to mix up our diet with both berries and meat. In this game, the more diverse the diet, the more healthy your people will be. They'll be able to fight disease. The forager hut that we're building will actually be able to be upgraded to have a herb garden on it that will then be able to kind of auto-grow and then provide herbs to people if they're sick, and that'll kind of decrease their sick time to where they'll go home. I haven't seen anybody die of sickness yet in this game, but it will be something more complete in the future. So, yeah, as for those different foods, meat, vegetables, berries, bread, eggs, apples, and honey can all be purchased. They can also all be found in the world, except for bread, of course. That will have to be made from wheat and then ground into flour and then brought to the bakery to then make bread. But the berries can be found in the wild. Vegetables can be grown in gardens. Meat can be hunted or imported or even gotten a few other ways too. Eggs from chicken coops. Apples we'll have to unlock, but we can grow those in people's backyards. And honey, kind of the same thing. We'll have to unlock those and build those apiaries, which apparently is run by monkeys. That's why they call it an apiary. I don't know. But yeah, those can be pretty much gathered at any time by our workers for honey. All right, we've now got somebody working as a forager, so that should get us some berries too. Very difficult at the start to know where to put people in, but I would say at this point we probably want to have one person working at the logging camp, one person working at the forager, one person working at the granary so they can go get the food, and then one person working at the hunting post. So these three are kind of interconnected, the hunting post, granary, and forager, and then the logging camp kind of works on its own. And then we've got one person on assigned to drive our ox, so they should be able to go out and grab materials and then bring it back, or bring it to a construction site, or they're doing construction, those types of things. So how do we get more people in this game? I'm sure a lot of people will be asking. It all comes down to approval. Just like in Stronghold, if you remember that game from like 2003 with the castle building, people want to be fed, people want shelter, people want all the basic needs to be met, and then they will eventually move into your city. So you can see right now where homelessness is negatively affecting us, and that's going to be a given no matter when you start. Nobody starts with homes, you have to build them. And so once we've solved that problem, it won't be a plus anymore. People see it as a basic need. So instead of it being a -4 or a -2, it'll just be a 0. So our approval will stay at like 44% or maybe drop a little bit. But the things that will improve happiness will be immediately providing people with multiple food types. Hunting and gathering berries will help with that. The bread would have also helped, giving us +3. But also building a church. I believe the church will give us a +7 to happiness, and so it really ramps up people's satisfaction and approval quickly and gets all those homes filled up. Which is why when you build your first homes, you don't have to just do 5, you can do 6 or 7, and then kind of wait it out a little bit. Well, speaking of waiting, it is now May, and we've waited enough to get some of these things done. So let's speed up time and see what we get. We still have people working on our storehouse here, one family. Hitching posts are looking good. The granary should be almost, getting fuller. We should have some materials in there. Let's see. Oh, 0 out of 500. Really? There we go. I was going to say the hunter must have just returned with deer, and yes, he did. Indeed, he did. I was right on the timing. So he'll be putting that into storage. The granary person will be putting that into storage. And that'll be done shortly. All right, we also have somebody to work at the storehouse. I'm going to go ahead and unassign whoever was doing construction before. Hate to do it, but we need to make sure we get that firewood into storage, because now we're down to, we're basically down to 0. Well, there went the firewood, and there went the food. A very bad start. This is why this game is kind of hardcore, because if you don't know what you're doing, it can all be luck-based. We could either start with a bunch of food and lose none of it to very little rain, or in this case, it rained a lot and we lost all of it. This person's going to come pick up some stones, which we want. And this homeless people's tent will disappear. This little lot will disappear when the people have homes, so you don't have to worry about that. And again, you can settle anywhere in the map you want to, so long as you put down like all the necessary resources. So there's nothing stopping you from building in the corner or on a beautiful hill or a cliffside. Here we got a gorgeous hill. Like, this is going to look really amazing. Pro tip, hold Control and Charlie, and you should be able to remove the HUD and go into a cinematic mode, so you can kind of see what might possibly be the future of our city. I feel like I can see it better now without the HUD on. So we've got, a city over here, a city over here, and they'll be interconnected. And then, of course, farms down here with maybe a windmill in the middle. Kind of cool that way. Can you picture it? I kind of can. I play these games too much. Some other games you may enjoy too that are like this is another one called Farthest Frontier that has a lot of the same themes of settling a world that is kind of an untamed world that's dangerous. It has wolves and bears, that game does, and also raids, just like this game does. You can also build towers, and you have to survive your first years off of basically doing the same hunting and gathering berries. So it's a very cool game, lots of detail, and absolutely gorgeous. All right, so we're going to speed up time again, see if we can get some more things delivered. We're going to try to get those rocks into storage. Not that we're going to be building anything out of stone anytime soon aside from the church, but it just feels good to zero out the area we were just in. Also, if you noticed, the people who are working at the storehouse are actually using carts. Yeah, there's one. So the carts will be used by people working at the granary and working at the storehouse, and so they'll be taking the roads. Now, the carts are incredibly slow on grass like that, so I could have actually built like a little courtesy road going back to the King's Road, but in this case, we didn't do that. And you can kind of see how longer travel will take as that person's going to get out of the woods and then haul right down the road. Any second now, I think we might see him, unless he's already made it. I don't see him. Let's see if we got rocks in the storage. Only hides so far from the hunter. Oh, that music too. Incredible. Oh, there he comes. Perfect. Family requests more market area for the stall. Oh, for the granary, yes. Yeah, they want us to start selling food now. They're getting pushy. They want the these things called food. Very important. All right. So now we're going to go ahead and start building our next step as soon as that's done, which is going to be the homes. Now, in that time that we've been waiting, though, it hasn't really been for nothing. We haven't wasted time. We've been investing our time in preparing our housing layout as we had before. So I'm going to go with what we had just moments ago, where we had a road like down here, and then we had like a big plot that was kind of off to the side like that. Yeah, and these all can give us some vegetable plots or whatnot. I'm going to try to shrink that down and maybe do 2 homes here, which will give us housing for 4, right? Because, of course, we can expand that. It'll take a little longer. But we're going to build that for the vegetables, and so we can expand those 2, so that's 4. And then we're going to do 1 more house, maybe this way. We're going to expand and go along this way, and we're going to kind of give it a little flavor. And we're going to switch up the angle. So oftentimes, you know, Americans like myself, we're just so wanting to just build an endless, you know, continuously same direction facing like suburb, like endless homes that just go on forever along the same street. But it is quite wise to build these interconnecting, you know, roadways here that provide a little bit more freedom of movement in the city. So really, you don't want a city block to be too long or too wide. You can kind of make it like this, and that'll be all right. And we'll probably cut this one up maybe 2 more times too. But we do want space based on what we need for our plots. So again, if we build one like this, and then if we build it up here, you can see we don't have too much space. Yeah, it's actually perfect. These are great for chicken coops and goats. We could also build a little larger like that. But I'm going to go for the smaller one. We want population up and just a few things like eggs, hides, and then what was the other thing? Eggs, hides, and something else. Maybe more vegetables. Or future ideas. Okay. So this is going to give us off the bat 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 homes, and then we can upgrade to have 7, 8. So that'll be perfect. All right, our people are also complaining about not enough supplies yet. It is June, so we're going to have to worry about that. Next thing we'll be building is the wooden church there, and we'll have to get planks in order to do that. So we'll be working on that in just a moment. Luckily, we now have 1 month of food and 6 months of fuel somehow. I'm not sure how we were able to salvage that. But I guess it's because 6 months until we maybe need fuel. I guess our people are tolerating no fuel at the moment at the cost of their happiness. But the oxen will be coming by, yep, to drop off all these different logs. And then we'll start the construction. And that's what it's telling us here is that we have nobody assigned for construction yet, but we could deliver all the materials to the site first and then start construction. And that's probably a just fine thing. That's just fine. We could also take the person off the storehouse now that they're done delivering all the stones, and that person could start working on the, or that family can start working on the construction itself, putting the buildings together. So yeah, all of this works together. The logistics of delivering material is just as important as the people building. So that's why the oxen are so important. Again, if we had one, imagine how long this would take. Of course, double to do all that stuff. And look at that. The loggers have cleared out a big area here. Now, under this tool, under construction, there's this last cosmetic button. And at the moment, we can do this thing called erase shrubbery. And this might really help you to be able to see the land in which we're going to be building in shortly. If we do that, it'll delete all these little shrubs and bushes, and you can see where our road is. And now, more efficiently, we can kind of see where we're going to build our town. Back that up a little bit more. Cool. Alright, so now we've got a nice plot here to build across. And again, I'm trying to do mix-match roads on purpose, and I also am trying to not build roads until I'm kind of building plots to make sure that the plot dictates where the roads go based on what the plot is needed. You got to follow the plot. Did you follow the plot? Okay. Now, I know this is getting quite lengthy, but by the time we're done here, we'll be ready for our first winter. And also in this scenario, the restoring the peace scenario, by the end of the second winter, the enemy will then attack the next year, I think. So they'll let us know that, hey, we're going to attack, and then it'll be the next year from that. So we'll go over things like raising the city militia and getting population numbers up in order to fight them. Now, our goal then will try to be to get our population up to 20 people or 20 families. So we'll start with 5, hopefully beeline towards 10, and then really try to get to 20. Increasing numbers of whatever makes people happy. Food, for example, would be an important thing. So we're going to put the church over here, right? I think we're going to put it maybe right up on this side of the hill. So we'll probably put our market nearby too. So what we can do is if we put the church, we take a look at the church, which is under residential, I believe, yeah. If we're going to build this maybe right here, which will look gorgeous, we can put our market right out in front, or maybe right off to the side. So we'll build like a little, my mistake there. We're going to try to make a little, maybe a little road that goes this way. And you can also see the contour lines, the curvature of the earth with these little red lines there, where you can try to tell where the top of the map is. It looks more flat here. So we'll try to build our little marketplace. You know, actually, in second thought, what would be really cool is to build it on the King's Road next to where the other town is. So eventually they could maybe possibly use that market too, although it might be a little far away from this section. So on further analysis, I think we're going to build a little square here. Actually, I think we can build the market square first. Yeah, we'll actually literally build a market square. I'm going to try to make it as square as possible. And a little rounded piece like that is totally fine. We're going to make it a little bigger than that. We're going to try to go for maybe more than 9 plots. As you saw the little plus signs in there, that's how big it'll be. This is going to be 14, so that supplies a lot of different materials. Keep in mind that each one of these stalls are going to be for firewood, food, clothing, and then multiples of those, so that way it can supply everybody. You're going to need quite a few of those stalls to keep everyone supplied. So we'll put that down there, authorizing the construction of that, and we'll cut down some more trees here, putting the church right around here. So perfect, like right next to it. And then we might be able to even put a well down, which will be cool too. Alright, looks like we got our first home completed. Hey, check it out. They're actually building the homes. And quite quickly. Wow, we turned our back just for a moment, and look at that. Well done, team. Everybody doing a great job. And I got lucky, too. I didn't know this. I kind of just guessed, but we got a well here, too. So, perfect. It's going to be a wonderful public area. People can go there for water. But the wells are really not used for drinking at the moment. They're mostly used for fire protection. So, they'll rush there whenever there's a fire to grab a bucket of water to put out the blaze. And it's a good idea to put those every maybe couple blocks, maybe near the each marketplace that you put down, and then more than that. But it's still a good rule of thumb to do. Let's go ahead and put down the little well here. We can rotate again by holding left click. Keep in mind that there's a little button down here, snap to roads. You can turn that off if you're trying to do a more particular design. But honestly, snapping most things to roads is probably the way to go. We can move it maybe this way. Oh, looks like it doesn't want to go. I was trying to make it so that way it would face this way, but I'm not going to be too picky about it. And there it goes. Only takes 1 log, so they'll get on that in just a moment. Check out all these houses. Amazing. Again, we're going to visit mode, and now we can see everything being built in first person. This is what blew me away about this game. Being able to see everybody building all the structures where each individual, like, roof piece and the framework and all this other stuff is put in one by one. The fence work. And when we get a chance to build the church, that's awe-inspiring when they do that. So, yeah, good work to our people. They're building very quickly. They've got all the materials delivered, and it's going to be like July by the time they all get homes. Not bad. March to July to build a bunch of homes, a granary, a storehouse, a logging camp. These people have been busy. They're very resilient. And, yeah, these houses can be upgraded a few times, as well as, of course, the upgrade to adding the burgage plots, like, for example, the vegetables, and then one more to add another home onto them, like a little guest house or whatnot, whatever you want to call it, an extendo home. Looks like the last house on this section is going in, and then finally the final one on the corner. So, yeah, these two are definitely going to be good for vegetables. So if we click on this house, by the way, we can go to this little menu here that will expand the living space. That will get another family to move in at the very top here. The house can be later upgraded once we've got all these things down here complete. All these little diamonds that are black should be gold. And then we now have a checklist of what we need to do in order to get the house upgraded to then further do what the king asks. So water access will be done shortly. We're going to be building that shortly. Church level will be done when we get planks and whatnot. We'll have fuel done when we build that woodcutter and have someone working there. Same with food. We got meat and berries going, so that'll be all right. And then clothing, we'll get that done when we build a tailor, or rather a leather maker, or a tannery, really. And then also take advantage of the pelts from the deer and or maybe a goat plot or two. All right, we've already leveled up now by building those 5 homes. But before we spend our development point, let's go ahead and construct that little vegetable garden. Now, you can hover over each of these, but the first you want to choose from, just to keep it simple, is vegetable garden, chicken coop, and goat shed. We're going to go with the vegetable garden. And here again, it says at the bottom of that description, yields depend on the plot size. So you want a big O plot at the start. Feeding everybody early is an amazing thing. Let's check our messages. Ah, the king has delivered weapons for us to defend ourselves, so we can form a militia. Now, we'll be attacked in the next couple of years, and we'll get into that later, so don't worry about the weaponry. It'll just automatically be transferred to the storehouse, and the king has been so gracious to send us spears and large shields. We'll get to that a little bit later, but keep in mind that does take up some of our space at the storehouse, so, you know, just keep an eye on that. All right, one more person free. They're still working on building that well next, I think. Yep, and any other buildings that come in, too. Oh, and the little house here. Now, the good thing is that these burgage plots are instantly upgraded. It takes a little bit of time, but it's pretty much instant, I should say. Like, as we click on this here, we're going to build another vegetable garden, actually. And, yeah, as you can see, construction started. It takes a matter of seconds. And we might be a little too late in the season for it to affect our people, but by next year, they'll be growing vegetables, and that'll be another thing to help us at the marketplace. So we'll have meat, berries, vegetables, all sorts of things to prevent scurvy and to keep our people healthy, which is going to be very important. So very cool. Looks like a work area is empty for our logging camp. All right, cool. Good news, because that means the area for the church is completely cleared. That person did a great job of cutting down those trees. Look at that. Wow. I'm impressed. Well done. We're going to go ahead and, I think, keep clipping away at trees around the village. So let's go ahead and start advancing south. And we'll kind of start clearing the way so the village has a beautiful view of the valley down below. And I think that even is our territory, too. Yeah, so we can build more down there as well. So we can even build, like, kind of a second village. And there is a way to build kind of multiple interconnected villages that way, but we'll get to that another time. All right, now, we need to build that woodcutter's lodge, too, so that's under construction. So yeah, we've got 3 people working in the food industry, essentially, and 1 person working on logging, and that's important because, of course, that's the only way we're going to build stuff in the future. So I would recommend trying to get that log storage full, which will take a little bit of time for the logger to cut everything down. But remember, once it's cut down, the oxen are the ones that will bring it to the logging camp. It won't count until it's delivered, so we can unassign this person to then go gather some of the logs. So they'll go start working with the oxen to go grab those and bring them into storage. So if we unassign them, it'll kind of help us out. And it'll help them to build this woodcutter's lodge, which we'll need done because that will help us with the preparation for firewood for the first year. And yeah, again, we got real shafted with our lack of food and whatnot. But hey, we came back, right? Now we've got 2 months of food, which is great. And we've got, you know, well, just 6 berries in surplus, but it's enough to feed everybody. So at least no one's going to starve, and that's important. Hey, and look at that. The families are actually farming. They're working on cultivating the fields. They might maybe plant them next year. They might do the sowing at the beginning of the next year, or whatever they may be growing. I've seen cabbage and carrots for the most part, but yeah, they'll get to work on that stuff, and it looks good. And not to mention the buildings look real nice too. The developer, solo dev, by the way, one person made this game for the most part. Aside from music, voice acting, and a few other things, this is the heart and soul of one person who's really put a lot of attention into detail. And if you like this, make sure you also check a series on the channel called Ostriv, O-S-T-R-I-V. It is a Ukrainian word for, I believe, island. And yeah, there's a beautiful island that you get to build in, and it really reminds me of this game too, tremendously. And yeah, a lot of developers, again, another solo dev for that one, just following their hearts and trying to do really cool things that, well, a game didn't exist in this format, so they decided to make it themselves. All right, we're going to now get somebody working at the woodcutter, following the same rules that I mentioned before, clicking on it, adding a person to that. And they'll also have a work area for cutting down trees. They don't take logs that have been cut down, they actually cut down their own trees. So we're going to assign that to the same work area as the logging camp just to get those trees cleared as quickly as possible so we can build more stuff. The next thing we want to do is try to, let's see if we have enough homes, do we? Yeah, I think we have one extra. Yeah, perfect. We're going to build one more building to try to then get on building the church, which is building a, if I can find that there, the saw pit, which will turn timber into planks. And this is going to be kind of a trickier building to use, and I'll show you how to do that in just a moment. We'll go ahead and build that here off into the forest. Notice how we've kind of built an industrial area. We built a logging camp, woodcutter's camp, saw pit, and a storehouse, and those hitching posts all together. It's kind of on purpose. One, it keeps it away from the city, which they don't really mind it too much, but it's helpful for when we're looking at industries. We don't have to continuously scroll around. So for our own sanity, it keeps everything in one place so we can kind of keep an eye on what's going on. But good luck trying to do that with the city. When it grows big enough, man, you got to keep zoomed out all the time to keep an eye on everybody. You never know if they're going to go sideways on you, or possibly trapezoidal. I don't know. Anyway, we're going ahead and break all those logs over for the building of the saw pit. And then that will take a oxen to work there full-time, or to at least assist to bring logs over to cut them into planks. So this is a part where if you're using the saw pit, because the saw pit uses logs in order to turn them into planks, that's going to, one, pull a lot of logs out of storage, and it might take away from future construction projects. And also, well, it's going to take an oxen to do it, so it also takes away from the logistics as well. So materials and, of course, an oxen pretty much working there full-time. But in order to build the church, we need to provide the church, I believe, with 20 planks. So we're going to try to get as many people working there as we can, and maybe even cut back on the woodcutter, as we do have, well, apparently we don't have any firewood or charcoal, but apparently we do have, oh, now it says 0 months. It looked like it said 6 before, but we should get these firewood numbers up a little bit and keep people on food, to which we have 3 months of food, so we would only maybe last until, at this rate, what we're going to have happen is the forager is going to lose those berries, and we're going to have to rely solely on hunting. So what may seem like 3 months could possibly be less, or actually more if the forager gets more done. We'll see, though. They're still working on getting those numbers up, and it's more than likely increasing. But the farmers here, oh, they've actually managed to plant crops. Let's go. Wow. Good job, guys. Look at that. All right, so we might have some vegetables at the end of the year. Good job. Unless these are going to be harvested in the spring. I have noticed that some of the crops will be planted at weird times and they don't get harvested until the next year. Something that the game kind of throws it off. It's still a work in progress, but it's not too bad. I haven't seen it happen very often. If I do, it's with crops on the farm fields where they'll plant them and then they'll grow in the winter when they shouldn't, and then they'll grow when they should. Or well, they'll be ready when they should. Like, for example, with wheat. Oh, that's planted before and then is harvested the next next autumn. Typically in September, they immediately start on that. Our people are very smart. The AI here is very resilient and very good at what they do, and it's very nice. I mean, whatever you assign them to, they can usually figure it out pretty quickly, so that's nice. All right, we're still trying to get some charcoal cut down. No, firewood. We're trying to get some logs cut down so they can make firewood. Well, there we go. Alright, and the person from the storehouse comes over and picks that up. Actually, I think homeowners are picking that up. So we don't have any in storage because they're immediately being brought to the houses. And here we have firewood that eventually will be brought into storage. Maybe the storage person will come pick it up if we have somebody assigned there. No, but the homeowners are coming and picking it up themselves, which is good. They're storing it in their house. So it's kind of in a way in storage. That's going to take a little while to get caught up on. All right, let's do a quick little review of all of our stuff. Make sure we're still making food. Make sure we're still hunting. Wow, there's 5 things in generic storage here. That could be 5 meat. Actually, no, pantry. The generic storage is a reference to what they might put in the storehouse. So here it would be hide, because you can't eat that. And the pantry would be 2, as in this meat here, which is venison. Well, it's just generic meat in the game. So you can see here the numbers broken down as to what's stored there. So we'll need somebody from the pantry and the storehouse to come over and pick those up shortly. And it looks like they're going to the forager hut right now to pick up a couple of berries and then bring that back. There they go. Perfect. And then those will be for sale by them in the marketplace. The marketplace will work automatically. If you have people assigned to particular businesses, they'll gather those resources like firewood or like berries, and then they'll bring them to the market to sell them to the public. That's kind of a full completion of their job. The more people you have working at those places, the faster those things get done, and they can split up the labor, so that's a good thing. Alright, now I always try to aim to get my church done right before or during winter, so we're going to try to get this one done by the end of the first year. Now this is going to basically show you more about how to prepare to build a city, but also in a way how to prepare for your first winter. I think I'll also do a series on preparing for winter, because I feel like that might be a lot of people's maybe bane of their existence for their first time playing. Maybe they won't have enough firewood ready for the first year or food, and so we'll instead of focusing on layout, we'll kind of tell them what they need to do, or I guess what you need to do in order to be ready, which isn't too much. You'll have to just mostly focus on food and fuel, but as I mentioned before, those things are important to optimize pretty much in the summer, and like make sure you got somebody working on that.
Yeah.
Time to switch gears a little bit. We're going to add one of our oxen to the saw pit to work there full time. So we're going to slow down time. And we're going to go to the advanced tab, and we're going to permanently assign one, which we can unassign later, an oxen there so they can bring logs to the saw pit. We're also going to assign 2 people to work there, so we're going to cut back. I know it's going to sound crazy, but we're going to cut back on firewood now that we've got 16 of it. We can last at least a month, and we can, of course, trees won't go extinct or die out or whatnot during the winter. We can always constantly cut down trees and then chop that into firewood. So that's a business that will always be ready to go. Now, we've assigned our oxen there, so Katharina there is grabbing Kunrad and bringing over the logs to then bring that to the sawmill, which will be plopped down there next to it. And then those workers will start working on cutting that into planks as soon as they arrive. Now, one thing I've noticed, and I hope this is patched out, this will tell you that the generic storage is full on this building. If you click on it, it'll zoom in on this saw pit. And this might not be an issue for you, but it's telling you that the generic storage is full, to which it's not. It's at 0 out of 50. But the log storage is at 1 out of 1. So we want people to come over here and clear that out, essentially. But there's lots of storage here for logs. And there's lots of storage up to 50 for planks right there. So they come in on the left side, workers roll that onto the saw pit, start sawing it into planks, and then toss it over to the side. So anyway, yeah, so we made 5 planks. We need to do that 3 more times to make 20. So 4 in total in order to build our church. So we're going to wait for that to be done, and hopefully we'll be able to do that. Oh no, a bandit camp was sighted. Oh, what do you do in this case? All right, if you're playing it peaceful, you don't have to worry about this, but in the game, bandits will show up in the game, and they won't necessarily attack you. You have to kind of attack them. However, they will rob you. Yeah, you can lose all that bread that I mentioned before. Maybe if we would have saved it, it could have still been stolen. Or maybe they'll steal carrots or really anything. And it will happen randomly, and as far as I know, there's no way to protect yourself. They will attack at night, even if you have an army, and it's just meant there to be a nuisance, so that way the brigands or the bandits are kind of something you want to clear out. Now, they actually have a camp on the map, and if we zoom out, we can see how far that is away from us. Doesn't matter how far they are, they will still kind of attack us. Now, our neighbor might get irritated with them too. Maybe he'll be robbed by them as well, and he'll send out an army to crush them. But later on, we can send out armies and deal with them. We'll get points and some other stuff for doing that. But for now, try to ignore them, but know that they're not going to ignore you. So keep that in mind. All right, now I want to build some more stuff, but we do need to keep some timber in storage for the church as well. So the church, I believe, takes, what was it again? The church takes, 5 logs and 20 planks. So as soon as the planks are done, we'll probably switch back to getting a little bit more log action going. And we're also going to need someone from the storehouse to come over too to store those. So what we'll do is we'll wait until there's probably 20 here in generic storage, unassign these guys from the saw pit, and then Oh, yeah, there we go. Now we got 10. So we're just going to keep repeating that cycle. Now, unfortunately, we're also going to lose out on these logs, so we have to go cut those down again because we're taking logs from the logging camp, which would be used to construct the church to make planks. Makes sense, right? Crazy, I know. It's beautiful to see, though. Oh, giving them a little break. All right, then, break time. Back to the sawing. And this was a big bottleneck for me trying to figure this out and to remember this from possibly the demo from 2022. Either that was a new mechanic or something had changed, but I didn't necessarily remember it. So very important to assign somebody, or rather specifically an ox, to work there so that way there's not much of a bottleneck. So where you see there still is. I mean, there's oxen sitting around and nothing's really getting done at the moment. Lazy, lazy. But here's something we can do. We can take this person off the granary and actually let the storage at those hunting camps and the forager get full, and then we can then have the granary go back to work to pick up the rest of that food during winter. It doesn't really seem to spoil unless it rains when it's exposed, like when it's not under any sort of cover, and luckily the forager and the hunting camp are perfect places for that. They have coverage, and so they'll be nice and dry. All right, this is the last time we're going to have to worry about the saw pit for a little bit, so as soon as that says 20, we're shutting it down. As they're almost finished there. Oh, just getting started. And now almost finished, and job done. Perfect. Hey, good. All right, let's get them off of that job. And we'll have somebody work on the oxen. Autosave is also enabled, so make sure you check your autosave options here for that. Very important thing. Going to cut down a couple of trees and have our oxen then start going to grab those. All right. Nice to reclaim so much labor. Now, after your first year, and once people start to move into the city, it really starts to open up. It gets a little less micromanagey, and you don't have to have people spin multiple plates or wear multiple hats. You will still need to do that, especially with hunting, or rather farming. Farming is a thing, you know, the hunting can take place year-round, the foraging can't, so you can take people off of foraging or farming in the winter because, of course, there's no real fields to be able to sow or whatnot. They'll be done with their work by November. So December, February, and maybe a little bit of March, you can get away with having the farmers on assigned to help you out on other building projects. Huge amounts of labor will become available, and then those folks can go ahead and help with the big building projects or helping to guide your ox or whatever. So then just make sure you put them back in maybe within the first year of, or the first week of March. So again, you can see what year you're in there and the rules for certain things, like what will happen in the summer, what will happen in the autumn and winter. Things like, for example, seasonal resources are gone. We mentioned that. Firewood consumption doubling. We mentioned that. And also, sheep shearing is forbidden. So if you're producing wool, that's something that you just can't do in the winter because it'll make them too cold. Interestingly enough, you can't really make linen in the winter either if you don't have any flax. So it's not something that, you know, if you haven't grown flax for the year or the crop failed, you're kind of going to have a bad time. So let's make sure we get 5 logs here, and then we should be ready to do business. 1 more log, and we will be able to build our beautiful church, and that will raise our level finally up above 45%. You can see here the 2+2 market variety for the berries and the meat. The church, I think, will give like a +5 or a +7, and then we'll just need to wait for the approval to go up to over 50%, and then people will start moving into these homes. And once they do, well, the next year will pass, we'll have even more food, and then we'll put people on egg production, which is another food type, and then it'll just exponentially get faster and faster. So the beginning is a little long, but honestly, in a game that's supposed to simulate medieval times, I think we've done a hell of a lot of stuff for 1 year. We built like 5 houses, a bunch of farm fields, a logging camp, and a whole industrial area, and like some stuff along the road in a market. So that's a hell of a lot for 5 families to do. They're very, well, they got grit. They got grit. I like the cut of their jib, whatever that may be. Let's go ahead and get those into storage too. By the way, I don't think those planks will count unless they're in storage. Oh, they do. But let's quickly move them to where they should be in storage. And we'll have our guy with the cart go ahead and swing across the street. Nope, he's going somewhere completely different. Oh, he's going to grab firewood. That's good. We'll have him work for a while. And that's good. All right, we got lots of logs now, so let's go ahead and shut down the logging camp. And let's go ahead and build our church. And finally, we can go ahead and do that. We'll put that right where our marketplace was. And don't worry about the trees in the background. We can actually keep them there as a nice little backdrop for the church if we want to, just on the side. And we'll maybe angle the church a little bit. Might be a little easier to turn off snap to roads, so we can kind of make a more separate connection here for it. And we're going to just make it a little different here. Just angled off of the marketplace, just slightly. Boom. Very nice. And actually, if you notice, there's like a little pathway back there for the church to, you know, like there's a back entrance to the what seems to be a cemetery. We can go ahead and connect it to the road here like this. That could be another way people can walk through the church to get to town, that kind of thing. We can connect it that way too. Maybe connect here. And it looks real nice. At least a nice open area. Now we're going to get a lot of people working on that church. We got to get it done. So we've got all these materials here. We got 2 people unassigned. Let's go ahead and do another quick check on all of our jobs. Go ahead and shut down the storehouse here. I think our people might be able to grab those planks from that actual storage, or maybe now it's assigned to that job. So yeah, they should be able to pull it there. So let's see what happens. This is actually a very early church build. Usually I don't start this until about October, September now, but you know, it should be October in just a moment or two. Let's go ahead and also set that work area for both of our logging camps then, just so we don't cut down the trees, at least for now. We can always change our mind. We're going to cut down some of the trees behind there, and we're also going to cut down there too. Just a few trees behind the church. Always looks nice for screenshots. It really does. Alright, so folks need to start bringing over all the materials. So we might see people bringing over planks. Oh, and also stone. Yeah, they got to carry stones one by one. That's going to take a while. So first bringing over the shovels to level out the land, rip up a bunch of sand out of there and soil and plant life and maybe small scrubs and things. Shrubs? Scrubs. It ain't getting no love from me. Passenger side of the best friend ride. Trying to holler at me. Now, while we're waiting, we're going to click on this, and we're going to rename our city, too. We can actually rename it up here if you want to. You can rename it to, Saint... We'll name our town Saint Tutorial. Because we're, like, learning some stuff there. And then we can actually see it in the world map now, too. So when we rename that, the region will be renamed, too. So pretty cool. All right, let's get this church done, shall we? A reward for all of our hard work. Now, this isn't exactly everything that you should do in the first year. It's most of those things, but there's a few other things that maybe we could have done. But there's also a lot more things that would have slowed us down and maybe confused us, too. And there's some things that we should already start preparing for year 2, like, for example, building more homes. And we could do that while we wait for the church as a kind of an example to always be proactive. There is a lot of sitting around and waiting in this game, but it's a beautiful game. It's beautiful to look at, and there's really no... Your job is to secure a ton of different counties or regions, and it takes a very long time to do that, so there's really no rush. There is no real need to hurry it on up. You know what, actually, let's build these houses this way. I'm thinking about building some higher tier homes here for later on. We'll build a little plot there. These could be tier 3 homes in the future next to the market. They'll look real nice. So if we give them a plot like that, that's a little larger than a standard plot, but a little smaller than the farming plots, then we'll be okay. Let's also build a main street here. Maybe that cuts through this way. It's really a main path to the church. There we go. And that'll lead straight to the market and straight to the church. It makes sense to me. We should have 2 more logs. Actually, we have 7 more logs. Great. Let's go ahead and maybe plop down some more houses here. Very awkward layout. Don't like that. We go ahead and try to slow that down a little bit. And they're still working on the church there. A little larger plot here. But we can't increase or decrease, so we'll try to keep that where it is. And that's okay for possible future tier 3s. They'll be a little larger homes, so don't worry. This will kind of actually look cool when we get done with it. It'll all be along this main street and marketplace. This place will be bumping. Big O downtown. Now, you can see why we needed all those planks, right? All that fencing. Yeah, they made all the fencing out of planks, and of course they'll also make the sides of the church out of that too. And there it is, October. Wow, we've already started to build the church before then. So check this out. All the pieces of the church being put into place. We've got the foundation down. The church is also upgradable, which we can do later, to stone, and that's the highest tier at the moment. There's also, of course, this is Manor Lord, so you will be building defenses and a manor and towers, and you'll be doing it in this manor as well. So that was pretty good. Hey, if you haven't subbed, there's more comedy like that to be had left and right. And check it out. Our church is complete. So now it is October, and pretty much all of the foraging is done for now. Actually, it's still dying, so you could take a little bit more time. I'd say by November that's going to be done, and then start putting your people onto jobs like more hunting. We're going to certainly need more food, but also the firewood is going to be important, so we'll get another person working on that. So let's do one final check on our jobs. We'll be cutting wood for the whole winter. Try to get those numbers up for the next year, and then we should have somebody working at the forger's hut, the granary. Let's go ahead and switch that back to there. All right. We don't need anybody working at the church. The only person who would work at the church is a graveyard keeper who will then dig graves for your people if there's a bandit attack. And a loss for where our last worker is. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, and then 5. Okay, yeah, 1 unassigned. Perfect. And then, of course, now we can visit the church in our third-person mode. Doesn't that look pretty with the background like that? The trees and stuff? Yeah, hey, not too bad. You can do this, too. So if you love these types of games, certainly this game is it is the most anticipated game on Steam. It has the most wish list ever. And I don't know how many that is in total, but I do know that at this moment, Frostpunk 2 has over 2 million plus wish list, so there's over, multi-million people want to get this one. But again, it'll be available via Game Pass, kind of like free with your subscription with no additional cost on April 26, 2024. It'll also be on GOG and Steam, and again, coming to consoles. No price point at the moment, but I would just definitely say make sure you check the Steam store page for sales, maybe a day one sale or future sales, and get it today. So winter is now around the corner. I would recommend at this point to just chill out for a little bit and wait for your happiness to go up. When the month of November comes around and when the month of December and January come around, our approval rating will continue to increase. And while we wait, our people will continue to build buildings because we've already got them laid out. We had more materials than we needed to lay them out. So they'll continue to deliver logs, continue to build houses, and winter is approaching. So, yeah, you basically could just sit here for a little bit on speed 2 or 3, or maybe walk around your town and just get a lay of the land, or continue to lay out roads. A great opportunity to not necessarily go full speed all the time, but maybe do speed 4 and then start building your roads, or reassessing your logging, depending on where you build. Cool stuff, right? All right, ask me some questions down below in the comments section. Ask me anything about Manor Lords or construction games or building or whatnot of these types. And anybody who's a pro, or if there's some new information or if some things have now changed, let us know down below. Would love to hear from you, and I appreciate everybody watching. So enjoy Manor Lords, starting a village. Let's build it. Let's do it. We did it. We came. We saw. We're going to do it some more. Well, especially sawing with those planks, huh? All right, I'll see you all next time. Take care and have a wonderful day. Evening, good afternoon, good night, goodbye.